clear of the closing doors, please.
Well, there it is, guys. My mental sanity is at an all-time low. I have not felt as bad about the New York Mets as I do right now since last season when they were 11 games under 500. This was perhaps the most embarrassing series that I have seen from the Mets versus the Atlanta Braves, and that is saying a lot considering the history of these two teams. The history of the Atlanta Braves absolutely waxing our ass for the last 25 years, dominating us, even in some of their worst years in their franchise history. And the Mets go down to Atlanta coming off a 3-game sweep at the hands of the Tampa Bay Rays this past weekend at Citi Field and lay the egg of all-time eggs, getting embarrassed out of Truist Park in Atlanta, losing all three in a variety of different fashions. Let's go through it all real quick. How about it, right? Friday, they blow a game in the 8th inning. On Tuesday in the 8th inning. Wednesday, they get shut down by Chris Sale, very nearly a complete game shutout. And today, the offense doesn't do a thing. Clay Holmes and Brazabon and the rest of the Mets pitching staff combined to walk 9 batters as the Braves absolutely dominate, dog walk the Mets in a 3-game sweep down in the ATL. Guys, what's up? I'm Tony Metro, and I'm pissed off. I'm sure you are pretty pissed off, too. The Mets are playing their absolute worst baseball at the absolute worst time. 6-game losing streak, back-to-back sweeps. The Braves go from 12 games behind in third place to now 9 games behind. They are now, without a doubt, feeling confident about climbing back into this race. And oh, by the way, they're not just hunting the Mets, because now the Philadelphia Phillies, after their win today, and the Mets' another embarrassing performance against the Braves, are in a tie for first in the National League East. But I do daily Mets content, and I do post-game recaps and rants just like this one that we're doing here right now. So welcome, and be sure to subscribe for that daily Mets content. Normally it's not as intense as it is right now, but today, oh boy, oh man, I am at an all-time high as far as the anger level at this ball club right now. Be sure to leave this stream a like. Really appreciate you guys doing that. And we can now finally do our live call-ins to the show. So if you want to be a part of the show, go to my Discord. The link to that is in the description below. You just go hang out in there. I'll put you in the waiting room, and then you can come on and you can vent all the terrible things about this New York Mets team right now that I am doing myself. So be sure to do that if you want to join the show. Again, go to the Discord. The link is in the description below. My goodness, this is just some of the worst baseball that I have seen in a long time. Nico, what is up, man? He says he's sad. 1 run in 18 innings. 1 run in the last 18 innings. Just another embarrassing performance from the Mets here tonight. On Friday, I keep mixing it up. On Tuesday, the opening game of this series, the game that I said on Tuesday in the post-game stream and in all of my content that I have posted since then was of the utmost importance to win. Number 1, you snap the 3-game losing streak that you entered with after getting swept by Tampa. Number 2, you're taking on Spencer Schwellenbach. And the Mets actually get to him for 4 runs in that game. David Peterson starts to fall apart in the 8th. But not before he loads the bases with nobody out. Reed Garrett just barely a strike away from getting out of that one, and the Braves walk the Mets off in the bottom of the 10th inning. And the reason that game was so important was because of what happened these last 2 nights. Steve Sorensen in the chat, $2. Thank you, my man. I really appreciate it. Feel bad, Tone. I am at a loss for words. Feels bad. I mean, dude, I'm with you. I wish I could be at a loss for words, but I gotta do the post-game recap, and that is what we're here for. This is therapeutic, I hope, for you guys as much as it is for me. I need this. I need to let this out, or it will stew and stew and stew. I never feel better about the Mets until they win their next game. So this is now essentially a full entire week of feeling terrible because of the New York Mets. Steve, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Saturday, Saturday. I have my days mixed up. The Mets have me so effed up right now. But anyway, the importance of winning the first game of this series, because Chris Sale and Spencer Strider on the mound in the final 2 games of this one. And yesterday, Chris Sale shoves it right up the Mets' ass, absolutely dominates them, 8 2/3. He's just a little poke bloop single from Brandon Nimmo with 2 outs in the 9th away from a complete game shutout. And then today, Spencer Strider maybe didn't have his best stuff in the first couple innings. Ronnie Mauricio with an RBI single, as you can see on your screen right here. But after that, the Mets offense went limp. More limp than an 80-year-old with a Corvette in Miami. Absolutely embarrassing performance from this Mets lineup from wire to wire in this series. Even on Tuesday, when they score 4 runs, you get the Soto homer, a Tyrone Taylor lucky bloop 2-out double, Taylor solo homer, and then they take their foot off the pedal. And again, are just hoping that the Mets pitching staff is going to be perfect, which, by the way, lately, it has been far from. They get dominated yesterday by Sale, and today, who didn't expect this? Who actually expected the Mets to come out and win this game tonight against Spencer Strider, even with Clay Holmes on the mound? Clay Holmes tight-roping out of trouble in the 4th. He starts it with a leadoff walk. It ends up bringing home the tying run in that one, and then does the exact same thing in the 5th inning, but not so lucky in that one. The leadoff walk sets the inning up, and before he could exit, a 3-2 pitch, bases loaded walk to a backup catcher that I've never even heard of. It sets the wheels in motion for the shit show that was this game, that was this series, that has been this last week of New York Mets baseball. I'm embarrassed. I am embarrassed. Who was the team entering this series 20 games over 500, and who was the team entering 8 games under 500? Because if you showed these games to any baseball fan that didn't know which team had which record, it would be very clear the Atlanta Braves were the team that was 19, 20 games over 500 in first place, and the Mets were the 3rd place team, 8 games under. That is how the Mets played in this series against the Braves. While the Braves outright dominated the Mets. Once again, big shocker. The Mets go down to Atlanta. The Braves are in the absolute just pits. 8 games under 500, 12 games behind the Mets in first place in the East. And the Mets have officially breathed life into that Braves clubhouse. You think they're afraid of the Mets? You think they're worried that they were 12 games behind the Mets? They just gained 3 on them. They just bitch slapped them back and forth for 3 straight games, and in a variety of different fashions. The walk-off comeback on Tuesday. Dominant pitching yesterday. More really great pitching today. And the Mets have no answers for them. I am ashamed right now of this Mets team. Absolutely ashamed. D-Rels. No, I'm sorry. Let me get back a little higher in this chat. We got Logged Off Gaming first. We look like hot dog poop on a summer night. I've never heard of hot dog poop. Ben Early, when Lindor gets cold, the whole team gets cold. Lindor, Nimmo, Alonso need to step up. Another horrific series for the big boys in this lineup. Lindor, Alonso, Nimmo, Soto to a degree. He had a good day on Tuesday, but other than that, not a whole lot going on in that big group right there. Absolutely. When Lindor goes cold, this Mets team just seems to follow suit. When Lindor is going, the team goes. That's just how it seems to have been since the Mets acquired him. D-Rel, Steve Cohen gotta go. Come on. Steve Cohen's doing his best. The Mets are hurt right now, but still, the way they've been playing baseball, the way that their team, their big guys are in a slump, the way that David Stearns has failed to properly address the needs of depth in this starting rotation, in this bullpen. It can't be Oscar Braziban and Reed Garrett every night. It's catching up finally. Tonight, Braziban looked like Braziban from last year. 4 earned runs, 3 walks. Gives up a ringing bases clearing double to Matt Olson. Not that I believe the Mets had any chance of coming back when they went down 3-1, did you? They walk 2 runs in the 5th inning, and you might as well just turn your TV off. The way the Mets have been playing ball lately, Why even bother watching the route? Why even bother watching it out? No point whatsoever. This team has me at a very minimal, maybe 1 out of 10, a 2 confidence level right now. Just abysmal baseball from this team right now. Logged Off Gaming, too many walks. 9 walks issued between Brazabon and Clay Holmes. 6 for Clay Holmes. It's like the Braves know what pitches are coming. I mean, what the absolute hell? They lay off everything. The Mets just had no answers for them. Nobody could figure out how to get this Braves lineup out. And I fully believe that the Mets have inspired this Braves team. This team was floundering for the first 2 months of the season. 8 games under 500, totally underachieving. And when you look at that lineup, when you look at that pitching rotation outside of losing Max Fried from last year, it's the same team that has whooped the Mets' ass for the past 4 or 5 seasons. So it doesn't make sense why they were underachieving, but let me tell you exactly how to get the Braves right. Just send the New York Mets down to Atlanta, and they will fix all of the Braves' problems. This was a completely just embarrassing effort from the Mets up and down. Pitching, bullpen, hitting, base running, fielding. Just a horrible, horrible series. And now streak of 6 consecutive losses for the Mets. Had not been swept this season. This time, exactly a week ago, entering the series with the Rays over the weekend, Mets had not been swept 1 time this year. They have now been swept in back-to-back series. And they have now kicked off this 10-game stretch with the Phillies, with the Braves, 0-3. It is beyond rock bottom. They have dug themselves into an incredible hole. They have lost first place. They are in a virtual tie with the Phillies. And oh, by the way, guess what awaits the Mets tomorrow? Zach Wheeler on the bump, and the Mets are going to be throwing a bullpen day. Things are so bad, they couldn't even just keep their plan entering this weekend. They plan to have Justin Hageman make the spot start tomorrow, try to soak up a couple of innings in the early going. Things got so out of whack tonight that they actually had to use Hageman. And now they have to shift course entering the series tomorrow. You think it's a good matchup for the Mets to try to snap their 6-game losing streak with Zach Wheeler on the mound? Time is a flat circle. Let it be Zach Wheeler, of course, the guy that we need to try to snap our 6-game losing streak, to not fall out of first place, who has been a Cy Young contender for years for the Philadelphia Phillies ever since the Wilpon Mets were too cheap to pay him. You can't script this stuff to make it any more painful. Absolutely brutal. Back to the chat. D-Rels, Ben, early Lindor rather laugh with Acuna than play hard. I saw that, D-Rels, and I got pissed off. I'm sorry. I know people are friends in sports nowadays, whether it's baseball, the NBA, the NFL. They joke around. They hang out and train together in the offseason. Yo, Lindor, the Mets are about to lose their 6th straight game. You guys have been getting your ass whooped for the last 3 days in Atlanta. Not a great look to be joking around with Acuna on second base. Did not like that at all. Logged Off Gaming, Olsen kills us. He always kills us. Olsen always kills us. I almost dropped an F-bomb. I can't say that on this stream. I will not be allowed to get all my views from you guys. By the way, thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'll try to tone it down a little bit, but not by much. James Lee, thank you, my Mets. I bought an 8-ball to numb my head. James is always going to something when the Mets lose. Last week it was Jameson. Now it's an 8-ball. Did you leave your wife like you said you were going to? I hope not. It's not her fault. Come on. Stay with your wife. I mean, maybe. I'm not a marriage counselor. I don't know. But whatever gets you through it, man. Be safe. Ben Early, at least no one can say the Mets only beat bad teams anymore, because apparently we can't even do that. Oh, Ben from the top rope. Nico Brazabon, why did I get an ad? I hope we just sweep the Phillies. Yeah, I mean, look, that is the only thing I can take away from this. The Mets could still go into Philadelphia. They could sweep the Phillies and leave Philadelphia with a 3-game lead in the East. But the Braves are creeping. The Braves are now got it down to single digits as far as their deficit from 3rd place in the National League East, and they go on to play the Marlins over this weekend. You don't think they're going to be riding high after just dominating the Mets here in Atlanta? They're probably going to go win all 3 games in Miami. So things are heating up in the National League East. And the Mets very well could be out of first place by this time tomorrow night. Absolutely pitiful. Earl Daly, I turned it off after the 3-run double, putting us down 6-1. Every loss to this team feels like 5. Yep, that's part of being a Mets fan. Unfortunately, every loss feels like 5. It really, truly does. Guys, again, if you want to get into the chat, if you want to call into the show live, go to the Discord link. It is down in the description below. The lines are open. I'll be taking calls right now. So feel free to hop in there. I'll put you in the waiting room, and then I'll bring you on live when I'm ready to bring you in. So if you want to vent, let's vent. This is the time. This is the place to do it. I turned the game off around that. I didn't actually turn it off. I started doing other tasks around the apartment while keeping the game on my phone. But I mean, look, when it was 3-1, there was no way the Mets were going to come back. Let's be honest. Spencer Strider turned it on. That 4th and 5th inning is really where this game turned, because the Braves make a little rally. It starts with the leadoff walk. They tied the game on the Ozzie Albies single. Of course, Matt Olson, the slowest human being I think I've ever seen run the bases, just barely by a foot safe on the throw from Tyrone Taylor in center field. That knocks this one up. But that's exactly when Spencer Strider started to turn it on. He struck out the side in the top of the 4th, and then he struck out 2 more in the 5th and another to lead off the 6th. And he ends up turning in a very impressive performance, even probably without some of his best stuff. You kept hearing Gary and Keith talking about on the broadcast the fluctuation in his velocity on all of his pitches, and still just absolutely dominated the Mets. 1 run in 6 innings. Mets couldn't touch him. When they went down 3-1, I had no belief they were coming back. The Braves and all their hokey fans in that stadium with their chop, feeling all the confidence in the world, and they should. Based on how they played the Mets in these 3 games, they should feel confident. There's no reason why that Braves can't get back into this division race. And they're not even the biggest concern. The Mets are tied with the Phils now, and now have to go to Philadelphia and take on their ace, with us throwing a bullpen game tomorrow. I mean, it can't get any worse than it is right now. It really can't. Locked Off Gaming says, we win in Philly, it will be a blessing. Yeah, I mean, again, look, the Mets could conceivably win 2 out of 3, leave Philadelphia with a 1-game lead. They could sweep and leave with a 3-game lead, or they could get swept. And worst case scenario, that would make it 9 losses in a row, 3 consecutive sweeps, 3 games out of first place. And the way the Mets are going right now, I wouldn't count that out, would you? Got a bullpen game tomorrow. I don't even know who's pitching after that the rest of the series, but does it really matter? This offense looks horrific. When do we start talking about Eric Chavez? When do we start calling for his head? I posted videos about it today. What has Eric Chavez done to improve this offense? What is he telling these guys in the dugout? And is it just the players? Is it them that have their heads so far up their ass that they can't even see a fastball right down the middle, and they're chasing sliders 3 feet into the other batter's box? I don't know, guys. This is bad. This is really bad. Nico says, I'll call in a bit. All right, man. Welcome. Hope you do. Logged Off Gaming. Grimace is throwing out first pitch next week if that helps. Oh, my God. The pain. Yeah, I don't like to try to recreate magic. That's not me. So I'm not really too stoked about. And I think our stream came out of place for a second. Hold on. I think we're in. All right, are we back? I think we're back. Okay, we're back. All right. Yeah, I don't like to recreate magic. So as far as Grimace goes, I'm not interested in bringing him back for a first pitch. But whatever, I'll take anything at this point. Lord Blummenkey, Mets yo daddy. The Braves want a beer. Go get it. Chop, chop. You got to give credit to him. You got to give credit to your Braves. You guys absolutely dominated us. It's nothing we're not familiar with as Mets fans. We are all fearful of going down to Atlanta, even if Mets fans don't want to admit it. It is always an excruciatingly painful series. You guys always find a way to just ram it up our you-know-whats. And I got to give credit to you. You guys beat the pulp out of us. And you beat the pulp out of me as a fan right now. I wish there was an off day tomorrow. I wish there wasn't a Mets game tomorrow. And it only gets more difficult with Wheeler and the Phillies now, fighting for first place. Logged Off Gaming says, Canning Saturday, Peterson Sunday. Okay, thank you. So bullpen game tomorrow, then Canning on Saturday, who has been really not so great over the last 2 times out for him. And then Peterson, who was great for the first 7 innings against the Braves on Tuesday and then couldn't get the job done. And that led to that horrifying walk-off loss against the Braves to open this series. So I don't know. Honestly, bottom line, is this offense ever going to start scoring some runs? Is this offense going to do what the pitching did for the first 2 months of the season and help carry the load? It's about high time that the Mets bats start helping them win games instead of just scoring their measly 3, 4, 5 here and there. Every now and again, they'll go off for 6 or 7. It's time they start winning games for the Mets and not making the pitching always have to be absolutely pinpoint perfect night in and night out. But will that happen? I don't know. I haven't seen any signs that would tell me that the Mets bats are about to just all of a sudden wake up. Elvin Solano, OMG, I miss Bader, Iglesias, and JD Martinez. The thrill is gone, shaking my head. I mean, you know, the guys on the margins are always important to a team. The guys on the peripheries, you know, not the stars, but the glue guys. And right now, the Mets are without those glue guys. I mean, you got Jose Siri, who went down. You were hoping was going to be a bat that would pop maybe 15 home runs, maybe 20. Blaze on the base pass with his speed. He's been out for virtually the entire season. You got Jesse Winker on the injured list. No sign of him coming back anytime soon. And let's be honest about it. The Mets' young players have been a massive disappointment. Every single one of them from top to bottom. From Mark Vientos not repeating or even being close to what he did in 2024. To Brett Beatty, who has been horrible outside of a little 2-week stretch, to Ronnie Mauricio, who is hitting 170 so far over the first 3 weeks in the MLB, to Luis Angel Acuna, who couldn't even sniff the field in this series other than a pinch running opportunity in the top of the 10th inning on Tuesday. And who could forget Francisco Alvarez? Another hitless night for Francisco Alvarez after the blunder on Tuesday behind the plate to advance a runner. Hitless in that game as well. The Mets don't have enough glue guys, enough guys to pick up the slack when players like Lindor, like Alonso, like Soto are going to go through natural slumps that every player in baseball does. But when you look at a team like the LA Dodgers, it's not always going to be Shohei Ohtani, and it's not always going to be Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. But they got guys like Will Smith, a young catcher that they have developed into one of the better backstops in Major League Baseball. They got guys like Kike Hernandez, who, I don't know about you, but when he comes to the plate, I'm worried because he's a damn good hitter. And he's also a very good overall player at multiple different positions in the field. And then they have another young player that comes up and all of a sudden is looking like he's going to stick in center field in Andy Pages. Where are those kinds of guys for the Mets? Why can they not develop players like that? Why can they not find players like that? That is what I think is the biggest issue right now when you look at the margins of this team. The guys on the outside, not the stars, not the nucleus, they are deficient players. They are minor leaguers, they are replacement players at best, and they are not living up to the standard that we need them to. And that's partly on David Stearns. Has not filled the roster out enough to withstand the injuries that this pitching staff has suffered and the injuries to the position players, which we just seemingly want to gloss over. But Jesse Winker being out now for a month and a half, with Jose Siri, whatever you want to say about him, playing only the first 3 weeks of the season before he went down, with Mark Vientos now down, going on 3 weeks. There's just not enough around the rest of the team to help make up when the big guys like Soto and Alonso and Lindor are not going. And it's brutal. It's absolutely been brutal to watch. Jose Lopez Moya, let's face it, when the Mets play the Braves, they shit themselves in their own jocks. Yep. Absolutely. It's a yearly tradition. The Mets quiver at the thought of having to play the Atlanta Braves. Change the uniform, change the players, change the manager, change the owner. We've done all of those things in the past couple years. New road grays, new owner and Steve Cohen, new manager and Carlos Mendoza, new players like Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor. It doesn't matter. The Mets cannot get the job done in Atlanta. There's a hex. It's got to be a witch. I don't know how else to explain it. Like I said, you want to get the Braves right, send the Mets down to Atlanta. They will fix them up in half a second. All right, we got a caller in here. We're going to try this here. We're going to see if this works or not. Well, call-in will definitely work, but we'll see if I'll be able to get any audio out of my headsets here. But just before we do that, let me read a couple more here on the chat. The big problem, this is, sorry, before we get to Jose Lopez, let's go to Logged Off Gaming. OMG, the must end the season. Yeah, it's only mid-June, no panic yet. I mean, not necessarily panic, but I'm at the point where I'm fed up. I mean, 6-game losing streak. Like, how many times do the Dodgers have a 6-game losing streak, right? Like, have the Cubs had a 6-game losing? I don't even think the Phillies have had a 6-game losing streak. Never mind getting swept in back-to-back series, and one of them being against your big NL East rival with the Braves. So I'm frustrated, but it's definitely not the end of the year or anything. But this is one of the low points of the season. Probably, in my opinion, if they correct course, like I believe they will, this will be the lowest point of the 2025 season. Hopefully. Jose says, another problem is that in the past free agency trading deadline, cheapskate Stearns didn't get a frontline starter to stop the bleeding like Garrett Crochet. Yeah, I mean, we were not expecting Sean Manaea to go down. He was supposed to be the stopper of this rotation, the ace, but unfortunately, you can't predict injuries. Manaea has been out, and hopefully he's on the mend and getting back here really soon. But it's been a really rough go of it, 100%. And I'm hoping that Stearns is going to be active at the trade deadline because there are a lot of holes on this roster. Mauricio, got to go back to AAA. Beatty, in my opinion, got to go back to AAA. You got to get Mark Vientos back up here as the DH, and I believe you have to go out and you have to find a legitimate starting third baseman for this roster. Ryan McMahon, Eugenio Suarez, if the Diamondbacks fall out of the race, they have got to do something to bolster this lineup. It's not just the pitching, guys. The hitting has been horrific for most of this season. Yeah, they're second in on-base percentage. Well, they're seventh in runs scored in the National League this year. They didn't do diddly squat against Atlanta in this series. They barely squeaked out 2 runs on Tuesday. It was 2 solo shots, and then let's be real about it. A bloop double from Tyrone Taylor that scored 2 runs. That Ronald Acuna was inches away from making a diving catch on. They get shut out yesterday, and then today, Ronnie Mauricio with an RBI single, and the Mets said, that's it. We're good. We don't need to score anymore today. The Mets offense is equally as culpable and responsible for this devastating streak that they're on right now as the Mets pitching. The only reason we're talking about the Mets pitching more than the hitting is because the pitching was so great the first 2 months. And now they finally hit a rough patch because of all the injuries and some guys returning to the norm, pitching a little closer to the rest of their career. And we're like, what the hell's going on? How could this be? They were so great the first 2 months. Why is it all falling apart? Well, how about we take a look at the batting? How about we take a look at the lineup that has not lived up to the standard, to the on-paper projections that we had for this team? That's how I'm feeling about it. I'm not putting it all on the pitching staff whatsoever. All right, I'm going to try to do this here. Let's see if we can make this work. I'm not sure I got the volume, so I may have to fiddle around with this. Nico, I'm going to try you on the air here. Nico, go ahead and speak for a second here, and let me see if we got you here. I think I'm going to have to make an adjustment, though, really quick. And so we're going to unplug the camera just for a second here, and let's try this now. Nico, you are on the air. What's going on, man? How you feeling? Nothing. Okay, that's not good. Well, that didn't work. All right, never mind. Let's try this. Let's go right back here. Nico, unfortunately, I can't get it working right now, so I think we're going to skip out on that just for the time being until I can get it back and working again. So we're going to have to take a look at the call-in show at a later date, but unfortunately right now it's not working for me. I think it has something to do with the Let's go back to the chat really quick. Jose Lopez Moya, right now, Alvarez is not an asset. He's a liability, a deadbeat ball player. Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to beat up on Francisco Alvarez anymore because he has just been so bad and he has worn the brunt of it. And at this point, it is what it is. And if the Mets aren't willing to potentially send him to AAA, if he would even accept that AAA assignment, then I don't know what else to do because he is completely lost in every part of the game. I mean, it sucks. It's been just awful to see what has happened to Francisco Alvarez. What a fall from grace. I mean, thought this guy was going to be, I never believed the next Mike Piazza. That was ridiculous. People were calling him that 35 to 40 home runs. Like, I was thinking 20 to 25, and we saw it for that 2023 season. And ever since then, it's been nothing but downhill for Francisco Alvarez. You can't just expect it to be Soto and Alonso and Lindor and even McNeil and Nimmo to a degree to carry this offense every day. It's not a 5-man lineup. It's a 9-man lineup. Tyrone Taylor makes his nice contributions here and there, but outside of that, Ronnie Mauricio hasn't done shit. You haven't gotten anything from Brett Beatty in 3 weeks. Mark Vientos is on the injured list. Even before that, he wasn't performing. Luis Angel Acuna has been relegated to a defensive replacement and pinch runner. You don't even want to put him up to the plate at this point if you're Carlos Mendoza. I mean, wow, just brutal. Nico, again, I'm sorry about that. I'm having some trouble trying to get the camera and everything set up here. So my bad. Hopefully we'll be able to get it working on the next one. If you guys do join into the Discord and you do want to call in live, I will give it another shot here if you guys are really, really interested in doing it. But right now I'm having some technical difficulty. But let's see. Where were we in the chat here? Lindor Logged Off Gaming says, Lindor 0 for 3, and he said himself, team can't score if the leadoff hitter can't get on. Yeah, I know. He said that last night in his post-game presser. I said it here on our post-game recap. Lindor said it himself. Hard to score runs when your leadoff man doesn't get on. He goes 0 for 3. Again, it's a tough 0 for 3, admittedly. 2 hardline drives right to Michael Harris in center field in his first 2 at-bats of this game. But it's a bad optic. It's a very bad look for Francisco Lindor to be joking around with Ronald Acuna while he's on second base, and the Mets are in the middle of getting their ass whooped by the Braves, about to lose their 6th consecutive game. And I'm not going to crucify him for it, but it's definitely not what I want to see out of who I believe is the captain of this team. Messing around, joking with Acuna while the Mets are about to get swept for the 2nd consecutive series. I'm totally there with you, Logged Off Gaming. 2 cats. Astros have no pitching. They lost Bregman, Tucker, Gurriel, Brantley over the past few years, and Alvarez is injured now, yet they find ways to be better than this Mets World Series contender team. Embarrassing. Well put, 2 cats. Very well put. They are just one of those teams that just continues to produce young guys that fill in the margins, like I've been talking about, fill in the gaps around those star players. And even, like you said, losing Yordan Alvarez to injury, and they're still able to make up for it. They're still able to make up for losing a guy like Alex Bregman in free agency. In years past, losing guys like Carlos Correa. This offseason, trading Kyle Tucker. Imagine that Astros team still with Kyle Tucker on it. And they still are finding themselves in first place atop the American League West. Now, granted, much less difficult division than what the Mets have, but the Braves were 8 games under 500, and I was told they were out of the division race. That's what I was told. So this should have been a cakewalk for the Mets, right? Then why wasn't it? Then why did they get laughed out of the city of Atlanta this week? I don't know. Something ain't right, man. Great comment from you there, 2 cats. Philip Wingo, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is the concern level that this is the beginning of a downward spiral that takes the Mets out of playoff contention? I'm going to probably surprise you with my answer based on how I've been talking for the first 30 minutes of this stream, but I am going to only say a 2 because the Mets are being bit by the injury bug right now. They were early on for the position players as far as Siri and Winker and Vientos, and now it's happening to the pitching staff. But I do believe the Mets are a much better team than they have played over this last week. I believe that the offense will finally, eventually, hopefully come around and start to live up to the expectations. they're going to get those players back in the lineup and on the bench at some point. And they're going to start getting healthier in the rotation too. And I don't believe, though I don't think he's actually going to meddle, that Steve Cohen is going to allow the Mets to not be aggressive at the trade deadline after having just signed Juan Soto to a near $1 billion contract this offseason. After going to Game 6 of the NLCS last year, I think that Cohen has grown as an owner, but I don't think he is going to like the way that looks. And I think he is going to push Stearns to be aggressive at the trade deadline. I'm not saying mortgage the entire future and the entire farm system, but I do believe there are going to be several deals made. I think there may be some shocking ones too. I think there may be some guys on the MLB roster right now that could potentially be dealt in some of these trades. I'm talking about a guy like Brett Beatty or a guy like Luis Angel Acuna. Though what type of value they have right now to other teams, I can't imagine it's very high. But I believe that the Mets are going to make big time deals at this trade deadline and leading up to it. And they will not allow themselves to fall out of the contention for the playoffs. So I'm going to say my concern level that this is something that's going to just have them go into a downward spiral is still only at a 2. But that could quickly change depending on how this weekend goes with the Phillies. The Mets, at a minimum, need 2 out of 3 in Philadelphia this weekend. A sweep, and man, things could really turn around fast. Leave Philadelphia with a 3-game lead again. See what the Braves do against the Marlins over the weekend. And things could definitely change course in a positive direction very, very quickly. But if they lose 2 out of 3 this weekend, if they, God forbid, get swept by the Phillies this weekend, that concern level might jump to a 5 or a 6, that the spiral is on. Jose Lopez, Moya, Alvarez, Mauricio, Vientos, all good candidates to be sent to AAA. Yeah, well, Alvarez, Mauricio for sure. Brett Beatty, I'd throw in there over Vientos. But, I mean, honestly, we need Vientos at this point, even though he wasn't even playing like he was last year. Could use him much more than we could use seeing at-bats from Ronnie Mauricio and Brett Beatty. Nico says, I'm pretty sure you were going to ask my takeaway, so here they are. I have no idea what's happening with Braziban. Around a month ago, he had an ERA under 1. And he's running out of character limits. As I was saying, he had a 1 ERA, and today he gave up 3 runs. Yesterday, Tuesday, he gave up a ton. He needs to get back to himself. I mean, the problem is he's been overworked at this point. He's been overworked because early in the season, Mets starters weren't going deep into games. Then they lost some pieces out of the bullpen with Minter and with Danny Young, and they've had to have guys come in and soak up a lot of innings from AAA, whether it was Waddell or whether it was Garza. They acquire Castillo from the Diamondbacks. You know, he's been okay so far, but there have been a lot of injuries. There have been a lot of times where the starters didn't go deep in games. Braziban has been deployed as an opener, as a closer, as a high leverage guy for 1 out, sometimes for multiple outs. And the dude has been overworked. And I'm really surprised that David Stearns hasn't gone out and tried to get another legitimate reliever for this bullpen, especially in the wake of the AJ Minter. So it's unfortunate. The Mets are going through a rough patch right now. I mean, a really, really, really tough time right now. So I don't know when it ends. You get a win tomorrow. You go back a game ahead of the Phillies in first place in the National League East. But you very conceivably could lose those next 2. You leave Philadelphia trailing a game. We were up 5.5 games on the Phillies this time last week. 7 days ago from this moment last week. 5.5 game lead just completely disappears, completely evaporates. And it's the Mets doing. And now I'm worried about the Braves, if I'm being totally honest with you. The Mets have completely breathed life into that Braves clubhouse. I mean, you think they're worried? You think that they don't think they could come beat the Mets 3 out of 4 at Citi Field next week, the way they just beat us up and down this week in Atlanta? They ain't worried. They ain't scared about the Mets at all. This was a total outright disaster for the Mets this week. Only magnified by the fact they entered the series losing 3 games in a row to Tampa Bay. I think it might be a different feeling had the Mets even won one of those games in Tampa, we'd still be really upset. But I don't think we'd all be at panic level 8 like I think I am at. That's probably where I would put it at. Not quite a 9, but definitely an 8. This is my 8 volume of my voice, right? Earl Daly says this has to be the biggest low, but I really think tomorrow will be the turnaround. We hit much better in Philadelphia. Plus, they don't have as much play discipline as the Braves. Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. The problem is the Mets are throwing a bullpen game, and Hageman's not even going to be available now. Not that that was such a great choice to begin with, but he's obviously not going to pitch because he had to come in and finish this one up for them today. So I don't even know how they get through 9 innings pitching tomorrow. And I mean, the Mets have never touched Zach Wheeler. I know they beat him in a game earlier this year, but they've never really truly hit Zach Wheeler very hard. So I don't know. I do agree they play much better in Philadelphia. It's obviously a very hitter-friendly ballpark, but I don't like the odds, if I'm being honest, and we're staring down the barrel of a 7th consecutive loss and falling out of first place by tomorrow. Philip Wingo, this is the starting to feel like the year the Braves chase us down after being up 8 games in the division. Where's the sense of urgency? Exactly. And I've been saying this. This feels like 2021 all over again. 2021, the Mets jumped out to that big lead. It was the first year that the Mets had acquired Francisco Lindor, but a lot of it was smoke and mirrors. A lot of it was like they're winning games, but they don't look like a dominant team. Their plus run differential wasn't all that impressive. And it's almost like the Mets are resting on their laurels of having reached 22 games over 500 and are thinking, yeah, we're good. We're fat enough now. We don't need to keep, having any type of urgency, as you said, Philip. That's exactly how it feels. And obviously, I know that's not the mentality in this locker. That's not what these players are thinking, that they don't need to go play hard. But that's how it looked, right? And it looks exactly how 2021 did, where the Mets had this big lead, and some fans were taking victory laps early in the season, that the NL East was over, and then the Braves came out of nowhere, took it back from us, won the division, won the World Series. That God forbid that happens. God. Oh, I can't. If the Braves win another World Series, I don't know if I can continue doing the streams. I don't know if Tony Metro can be a YouTube thing anymore, guys. That will really devastate me. If the Braves come back, win the National League East this year, and then go on to win the World Series, I don't know if I can continue on YouTube. I might have to end it. Call it quits. I'll get a job at the coal mine. They're tough hours, but they pay well. And the benefits, you can't beat them. Earl Daly, Wheeler may be tough with the bullpen game Saturday, and Sunday will be better. Look, just win 2 out of 3 this weekend. Just win 2 out of 3. Escape Philadelphia with a lead. No matter how it goes, one of the Mets or Phillies will leave that series after this weekend in sole possession of first place. Whether one team sweeps, whether one team wins 2 out of 3, or the other team wins 2 out of 3. Unless there is a rain out, either the Mets or the Phillies will conclude this weekend in first place and alone. So just win 2 out of 3. Get this nasty taste out of your mouth, because guess what? The Braves are coming right back up to New York for a 4-game series against the Mets at Citi Field immediately after that. So if you thought the horror movie was over yet, you thought that Michael Myers was dead, not yet. Nope. Rising from the ground, even after falling out of a 4-story window, the Atlanta Braves are that killer that just will never leave you alone. Oh, let's see. Earl says, oh, no, sorry, you already said that. Guys, I'm disappointed. What is your big takeaway from this game? Nico, you already gave us. I appreciate that. I'm sorry we didn't get the call-in show here working today. It's my headsets, for whatever reason, giving me trouble. It worked really well yesterday, though. So if you guys do want to give it one more shot, I think I know how to do it. So if anybody does want to call in, feel free to jump in. You just go to the Discord in the description below, and then you could get into the waiting room, and I will plug you into the chat. And again, you could vent all the terrible things. I just ask no cussing, a little bit of, ass is okay. You could say that on the radio. It's FCC approved, no problem there. But nothing crazy like that, okay? Keep it PG-13, and we should be good. But if you guys do want to join, just hop into the Discord waiting room. The link to that is in the description below. So let's take a look at the box score. I didn't even do that. I just had to go on a rant about this team because that was just horrific. And what do you know? On the top of MLB.com's homepage is a picture of Spencer Strider and the Braves. Got it. That's just great. Great. Love it. So nice to see. Lost in all of this. Juan Soto with his 1,000th career base hit. Great. Awesome. I'm stoked. Can you tell? Mets with just 6 hits tonight. You got knocks from Nimmo, Soto, Alonso, Marte, and Tyrone Taylor and Ronnie Mauricio. Another 0 for 3 for Francisco Alvarez. He is down to 229 on the year. Lindor 0 for 3. His batting average has dropped to 268. His OPS just barely hanging on at exactly 800. I mean, it's just been such a terrible stretch of baseball. But honestly, I feel like we've kind of been ignoring how bad the Mets offense really has been for most of this year. I mean, you know, their numbers, the OPS in the on-base percentage, they're there. But at the end of the day, I mean, the hard hit rate percentage and the exit velocity is great. Great. Okay. Where are they as far as runs scored? And I'll tell you, 7th in the National League because they're putrid with runners in scoring position. Bottom 5 in all of baseball, somewhere around 220. Might even be lower than that now. So I'm concerned about this offense. And that is why I have been on record and continue to shout from the rooftops that the Mets need to get a legitimate starting position player to plug into this lineup. I'm not talking a nice little addition for the bench or, you know, a cute little no, like an Eugenio Suarez at third base. Honestly, find me a left fielder. Put Brandon Nimmo in the DH spot at this point. Save his legs. Find me a legitimate slugging left fielder. The Mets need something else. And maybe, we've talked about it a lot, maybe it is Jared Duran. Maybe Duran does need to be that guy. I've downplayed him for a long time now. I've said his numbers aren't as good as they were the last 2 seasons. He's going to be expensive. But maybe that is the type of move that the Mets need to really jumpstart this off. Yesterday, they get shut out on 5 hits. Like I said, they score 4 runs on Tuesday, but really not very impressive. Bloop double from Taylor kind of skews how that really looked. And then today, how do they follow up getting shut out by a 33-year-old Chris Sale? Oh, I don't know. They get 6 hits and 1 run. A 2-out single from Ronnie Mauricio in the top of the second. Just brutal. Just absolutely brutal. Let's see. Let's get back to the chat here. Jose Lopez Moya, the way the starters and relievers have been pitching, the Mets will go into... Got cut off. Get cut off against the rest of it. Just stop. The Mets will go into what? I don't know why. I can't see the rest of that chat if there is any. I just see we'll go into. But guys, I think it's time that I say my piece here. We wrap it up. Let's take a look at tomorrow's game. Obviously, we know Zach Wheeler is on the bump for the Phillies with first place on the line, and the Mets have to be determined on the mound. I always love that guy. He's got a nasty cutter. He's always throwing it up and in, little chin music on the righties. It's going to be a bullpen game tomorrow for the Mets. And today, they obviously used Braziban for barely even pitch. He only got 2 outs. It felt like he was out there for 40 minutes. So he is burned for tomorrow. And then they used Hageman for 2 2/3 to mop up the rest of this one. So he is absolutely unavailable tomorrow. So it's not going to be Blackburn, I couldn't imagine, even though he only lasted, I think, 3 2/3 yesterday. So I don't know how the Mets even get through tomorrow's game. It'll be Garza and Castillo, and they're probably going to have to send someone else down. And oh, by the way, lost again in all of this is the Mets put Max Kranick on the injured list today. So another reliever goes down for the Mets. Not even that Kranick has been pitching all that great lately, but one of the more reliable arms considering the rest of the slop that we've been putting out there. David Stearns needs to get on the phones right now. Additions need to be made to this bullpen for this starting rotation and in the lineup. All 3 facets of this Mets team need reinforcement. And David Stearns needs to make them happen sooner than later before things do truly spiral for this team. And before you know it, we're looking up at not only the Phillies, but maybe even the Braves after the way this week just went. So after that, on Saturday, it's going to be Griffin Canning, hoping to bounce back after 2 pretty porous starts. He'll be taking on Nick Abel, who's a solid young pitcher for the Phillies. He's a right-hander. And then in the finale on Sunday, Sunday Night Baseball, where the Mets always play so well on national TV broadcasts, Jesus Luzardo, who has been roughed up his last few times out, but overall was really solid up until maybe 3 weeks ago. So we'll see what happens. He's a lefty. He'll be taking on David Peterson, the lefty for the Mets. And the Mets, at this point, you're just crossing your finger. Just don't get swept in Philadelphia. But if you can win 2 out of 3, you can leave that disgusting city with a 1-game lead in the East. I'll be satisfied. You sweep, and I'll be doing a dance. It'll be like none of this ever happened. 3-game lead again in the East. Then you take on the Braves. You got a chance to make it all up. But the way they've looked lately, they're not giving me a lot of promise that that's going to be how it. Guys, thank you so much for joining the stream tonight. We're going to cut it off here. I apologize for not getting the call-in show working there, Nico, but next time I promise. So tomorrow, again, another post-game recap immediately following Mets and Phillies. Hopefully, the Mets finally end the 6-game slide, or we'll be talking about a 7-game losing streak, and I will shave my hair live on air. So be sure to tune in. You don't want to miss it. But guys, if you're not already subscribed, be sure to do that. Really appreciate it. Daily Mets content, post-game recaps after every single Mets game. And leave this stream a like. Really goes a long way toward helping out the channel. I really appreciate you all joining tonight. Nico, Ben, thank you to D-Rel. Thank you to Steve Sorensen for the $2 tip. Thank you to Logged Off Gaming, James Lee, Ben Early, Earl Daly, and thank you to Jose Lopez Moya, also to Elvin Solano. And let me make sure that I miss anybody. I don't think I did. I think that's everybody. Oh, and Philip Wingo. Thank you all for coming in, and Two Cats as well for coming in, commenting, keeping the chat going here. It really helps me out a lot. I'm glad we get to have this back and forth, and hopefully we're going to have these calls going and you guys can get live on air here if you want to chime in and continue talking Mets and venting about our beloved Mets. So that is going to do it for right now, though, you guys. I appreciate you all tuning in. Until next time, I'm Tony Metro. Stay true to the orange and blue.